And now we welcome JonDeTech and CEO Dean Tosic and Chief Product Officer Karin Thurberg.
Thank you.
Welcome. So could you just give us a brief introduction of what is JonDeTech?
Okay, thank you. JonDeTech is a technology company. We've been working with nanotechnology, and we're building basically a platform for a number of products that will come out on that. The first one that we're actually launching is an IR sensor, which we had a big announcement about just recently, that we had the first products coming out of the new production flow that we've been setting up, which is a great event for the company. We're running a fully fabless operations, which means we have a low capital cost in the company, and we have outsourced most of the production, and we have an ecosystem of partners helping us in the back end, so to say. With a new announcement, we're also scaling up sales resources and targeting both existing customers, but also looking at new customers coming in now. So that's a little bit about where we are and what we do.
Okay, and maybe starting on the product side, could you just tell us about the different products and their specifics and maybe how they differ from existing technology today?
As Dean said, the product that we have just announced that we have working samples ready, that's the JRS30. It's a nanotechnology platform, and it's based on a nanotechnology platform, and the first product is an IR sensor. And with this IR sensor, we are capable of measuring temperature contactless, and this will enable use cases such as human presence detection. So with this product, we are able to address one of the world's major challenge as of today, energy efficiency. So consumer appliances can know whether they are actually on the head and should be active and in the active state and should be used. So that's one example. And screens can be turned on and turned off depending on whether I'm sitting in front of it, for example. So that's the first use case. And the second use case will be heat flux measurement. We can actually measure the energy flow through the human body, and we can measure also the temperature on the body, and with that information we can actually calculate the body core temperature, and this is an important indicator for our health and well-being. So I think this will actually play an important role in the future healthcare system.
And would you then say that do you enable new use cases by using your products, or is it more an efficiency story? Like, what is the story here?
I think it's a combination. I mean, it's certainly an efficiency story because we cannot we cannot solve the energy challenge by producing more energy. We also need to be more energy efficient. So that's one aspect, but we are also enabling new use cases because we can, for example, remove the on-off button on electronic appliances as one example.
The use cases that we're addressing is to some extent known by us, but it's better known by our customers. I mean, we produce the technology with certain key unique selling points. Then it's up to the customers as well to identify where in their products can they actually make use of our product in the best way. So we don't know all the use cases that are existing out there for us. So that's one thing that we're actually exploring together with potential customers and partners at the moment.
Is there anything you can tell us more about, like what are the things you are exploring with your customers?
I would say mainly consumer electronics at the moment. I don't want to go into specific product lines because that will, I think, expose our customers a little bit on what they're actually focusing at the moment. But what we're targeting is consumer electronics in the first step. And that means that if we succeed getting the design wins and getting the projects going, there is a huge potential for volumes.
And you mentioned that you will start off with the consumer electronics. I remember watching your presentation that you also talked about like home appliances and other different areas. Do you think that you will license your technologies in these segments, or do you think you will sell specific products for those segments eventually?
As of now, the business model is based on the fact that we are designing, producing, and shipping our products. But of course, there is an opportunity for us to do what you just mentioned, to license the technology. So we are open for both alternative, but our current focus is to be more in the production
Okay.
area. Yeah.
Okay. And you are on the road to volume production and actual sales, product sales. Could you tell us a bit more about this roadmap and what are the different stages and how much time do you expect to spend in each stage?
As we said, we have a working sample of the JS 30 product. The next step is to reach what we call engineering sample. And that means we have stabilized the production flow. So we see that we have a good and stable quality coming out when it comes to the product flow that comes out of the production. After that, we need to basically stress test the product before we can see that it's a commercial product that we can also give guarantees on to our customers. So, and that process we expect will take pretty much 2 quarters, 3 quarters.
Okay, so we're talking about Q3 next year or end of Q2?
I would say mid next year.
Mid next year.
Yeah, but what is important to understand here is that already now, when you start getting the first products out of the production, we can start selling it. We can start the sales discussions with the customers we have, because in the electronics industry, the lead time for getting a sale is quite long. You need to go through the design win, you need to go through the testing and so on. We have a head start on that because we have a few partners that we've been working with for a number of years. So they have already done most of that pre-work. So what we're targeting is to actually initiate sales with those within short. Yeah.
Okay, and how long would you say the total sales process is to go from start having a conversation with the customers to getting the design win to getting to volume sales if you are targeting new customers that you haven't worked with previously?
I would say that is extremely difficult to say, to generalize. It all depends on the size and of course, what kind of application the customer is targeting at the end of the day and how far their development project has gone when we kind of come into the process as well. So I would say anything between 3 months to maybe even up to 24 months or so.
Okay.
So that's why we need to also broaden our scope when it comes to sales and have a number of sales discussions ongoing. So this is why we also scale up the sales organization at the moment.
Okay. And could you tell us anything about what the order sizes or any, like what should investors expect from an order from an initial customer? Are we talking 100 million crowns or?
I think initial orders that we will see would be, smaller batches, because what we need to do is to enter proof of concept mode and design wins and so on. So that would be smaller volumes, but that's the first half year as I see it. As we move forward, that will of course increase. But and what we're targeting is of course a very high volume, since it's consumer electronics we're talking about. But I won't be specific on numbers at this point.
I understand. You also have a rights issue out right now. Could you tell us more about that?
Yeah, this is of course the funding of the company that we're talking about, and we have a rights issue ongoing at the moment. We believe that will be taking us into part of the next year, but it's also done in 2 steps. So we have one injection of capital in December, and we have another one in February, which is all part of the emission round that is ongoing. And if we are successful in both these activities, that will take us quite far into 2024. So this is a very good kind of setting for us in order to make sure that we can reach the market during this time and start generating revenues as well. So that's the whole point of targeting 2024 with this emission.
You said if you're successful with the rights issue, what options do you have if it's not as successful as you hope?
Of course, the board is always looking at different ways forward when it comes to funding. So we have a number of options on the board, but I can't go into that because that is essentially what the board is working with.
Okay, I understand. We did have a question from the audience. Can you mention any customers that has integrated your engineering samples into an application for testing?
We have, of course, O-Film, which we've been working with for quite some time, and they have been testing specific applications, a number of them. We have one application which is under discussion as we speak. I mean, we are redesigning an existing solution and putting in our sensors in that. We have a few other ones that they've been testing that they see that we need to do some modifications in the whole solution. So that's one example. But O-Film is the one we have been working with for quite some time as well. We have also a partner in Taiwan who has been testing the Gyrus 10. They're currently building an ASIC where our sensor element will be integrated into in order to fit into their product line as well. So that's two very sharp examples. And now, after we have initiated the sales discussions, we see a number of other possible cases that we need to be a bit selective so we don't broaden ourselves too much in terms of where we spend our resources.
And if we move back to the product side, could you just give us, you currently have two sensors, the GRS 10 and the 31.
Exactly.
Could you tell us about how do they differ?
They differ in terms of the fact that the JRS-10, it's a traditional thermopile made out of silicon, whereas the JRS-30, that's based on our nanotechnology platform. So it's made in flexible plastic. They do the same thing. They measure temperature contactless, and we can use both of them for human presence detection use cases. So that's the common aspects. And then JRS-30 has the advantage of also being able to measure heat flux. So with some incremental development, we are now evaluating the work efforts that it will take to integrate a thermistor that will be able to measure absolute temperature, and then we will be able to deliver on the use cases I previously mentioned, measuring body core temperature. And then finally, one more differentiator with the JRS-30 is that we see that with the same technology as a basis, we will also be able to, and this is something that we are actually exploring already now, we will be able to generate very small amounts of energy that we think will be sufficient to actually power consumer electronics. So I think this is a very interesting future use case as well.
I think the audience is very curious about what application do you think you can power with this product?
I think all types of body near electronic appliances that today is using batteries. I mean, the number of appliances is just growing dramatically, and each one of them will have to be charged. So we're causing ourselves a problem. What if we can use the source of energy that we are all carrying with us every day, the body heat, to prolong the time between charges? I think that would be just amazing. And then there is also another very interesting use case, and that's the IoT revolution that is about to happen. And many of these sensors, they are actually placed in quite in places that may be hard to reach. So sending someone there to change battery is actually cost. So if we can reduce the number of times that you need to replace batteries, that would be a great advantage for the IoT business case.
But do I understand you correctly that it's not a replacement for a battery? It's just the battery will last longer, but it won't replace it.
It depends on the application. If, for example, we are thinking about an IoT sensor that is transmitting very small amounts of data, and maybe not so often, maybe once every 24 hour, etc., then I think there is for sure a possibility that with our sensor technology, we should be able to fully replace the battery.
And the 30 model compared to the 10 model sounds better in every aspect. Why would customers go with the 10 model instead of the 30 model?
The 10 model is available here and now, so that's the competitive advantage it has as of today. But again, we have just announced the working samples of the RS30, and as Stian mentioned, we are now doing our work with the production to verify all the steps in the production, that we can repeat the process and we can generate sufficient yield. And when we have done this successfully, then we can also tell that we have reached the state of engineering samples.
And could you just remind us, when did you expect to reach that stage?
I think, the process we have already started the work, and it looks promising. So I think in a quarter from now, we should be able to announce the engineering samples.
Okay. I know this is a hard question, and I probably know the answer, but in terms of energy efficiency compared to existing solutions, like what is it 30% better, or can you give us any form of indication?
Energy efficiency compared to what?
To the stand, or what you would replace. What you expect to replace?
Do you mean the performance of our sensor compared to other existing sensors? I think it's very hard to because you need to look at the specific use case. But I think what is very interesting with our sensor technology is that we can actually achieve multiple tasks with a single sensor element. We could potentially replace the on-off button in, for example, smart glasses that is really about to enter the market. And at the same time, we could have, with the same sensor element, we could also measure the skin temperature and the body core temperature. And that biometrical data could be sent to a health application. So that's value in that as well. And then thirdly, we could also generate energy to actually extend the time between charges of the smart glasses. So we can do multiple tasks with a single element. So that, I think, is really our disruptive.
Add on to that, I mean, the JS30, being the nanotechnology sensor element that we have, has a few key points that we need to point out. One is that it's built by plastic and metal threads that is drawn through plastic, which means it's a totally different basic technology than sensors made by silicon. And one of the key features is that it's extremely small in that sense, so you can use it in different applications than the existing in the market. So that's one thing. The other thing is that since it's plastic, it's also flexible, which means that you can put a number of sensor elements together and have kind of flexible sensors that you build, which you can use for other types of cases than the very hard and encapsulated silicon sensors. So there are different ways to actually apply our sensor, which is kind of new to the market. So this is also why we are trying to figure out, where are the use cases. We know some, but we don't know all, and we need to partner up and find the customers who finds the other use cases.
I understand. Okay. Thank you very much for attending today, and thank you for watching.
Okay. Thank you.
Tack.